Hi, in this video I want to show you some really useful data. It's over 100 football leagues ranked by their liquidity based on the Betfair exchange liquidity at 3 different time points. At 60 minutes pre-match, at kickoff, and also at full time. And it's quite interesting how the data varies at those 3 data points. Why is this data useful? Well, first of all, scalability. If you're putting time into researching betting strategies that you want to use for yourself and increase stakes on over time, or if you're researching strategies that you want to share with a group of people and you know that a large amount of money is going to be placed on them, then it's much better to put your time into researching based on leagues that have that liquidity that can handle a large amount of money being placed on it. Also, some people think that leagues that have more liquidity may have more consistency. One reason for this is if there's more public interest in a league and there's more money on it, there's more eyes on it, then the data we have on it is going to be more accurate. And also if there's more money on those markets, that means there's going to be more actors, more different people putting money into the market, and there's more chance that that market is a more realistic reflection of the public mood and also the betting market in general. In smaller markets where there's less liquidity and fewer actors who are putting that money into the market, then how can we judge if those odds are fair or not, if their value, and if their value in one match, are they going to be consistently value over time if there's a very small number of people who are actually involved in those markets? And another aspect is the edge, the return on investment, the value, lots of different words for it. But basically, some people believe that matches with a lot of liquidity are very hard to find an edge in because there are so many people invested in it. There's so many people looking at that data that it may be that those odds are very close to fair odds, or it's very unlikely that you'll get value in that. I don't quite believe in that point of view, but some people do feel that. And then they may feel that in minor markets with less liquidity on them, where there's possibly less data available, that there's more chance of finding value and maybe more chance of getting money out of the market, especially if your betting system is based on your own statistics that you have and not based on reacting to the market. So if you already have a model and you know what the value price is, you may have more chance in those minor markets where the other people don't have as much data, or maybe they're just looking at whatever the odds are on the public market and reacting to that. So if you're dividing up your strategies into different sets of league liquidity, you might find that your ideas work better or worse with higher, middle, or low liquidity leagues. I sometimes get people asking me which leagues are the best leagues to trade on, or which leagues are the best leagues to bet on. And I think it really depends on what your filters are for your betting system, what it's based on. But when you do have a system, it's good to test out separating it between those different kind of leagues that have high liquidity and low liquidity. So the way I use this data is I separate the leagues out into liquidity groups, high liquidity, low liquidity, and then I look at the strategies I have and see if they work differently with those league groups. Because of course we want to focus on the leagues that work best for each betting strategy. Where am I getting this league liquidity ranking from? It's coming from betterminute.com's article about 107 leagues ranked by liquidity. So I really recommend you take a look at that actual article and read through what they've said about it. And we're going to be looking at that data in this video to show you how I pick the leagues that I've picked in my different groups. This is the article here on the Betterminute website. And on this article, there's the full table of all the data. And this data can be downloaded as an Excel file for you to fiddle with and filter and edit yourself. They comment on the different levels of leagues that there are, and this is a really useful set of data to look at. Of course, right at the beginning, it tells us the obvious ones. We all know these are very high liquidity, very popular leagues, but often a question we have is which are the leagues below that still have quite a lot of liquidity. And basically that table has 3 data points. It has data from 60 minutes before kickoff. It has the data at kickoff, literally the data 1 minute before kickoff. And it also has the data at full time, so after a lot of in-play trading has happened. And when it's talking about liquidity, it's using traded volume, how much money has been bet on the exchange. So we often think of liquidity as how much money is available right now to be bet on, but this article is using the traded volume as the statistic that they can log and that they can compare. And they've also calculated columns that show the difference, the increase in liquidity from 60 minutes before kickoff to actual kickoff, and also the difference from kickoff to full time. The table on the Bettermining article is initially, it's ranked by the average at kickoff at 1 minute before kickoff, and the leagues are in order from there. It gives the Betfair league name, but also the Bettermining league name. That's because Bettermining has a database of historical football results going back to 2012, and you can use that in their Bettermin builder to backtest different football betting ideas. And this is one way they use their data. There's a scroll bar underneath where we can scroll across and see the exact details there. And you can also download it and into an Excel file and fiddle with it yourself there. In the article, then they start to break them into chunks. Like they have the top 5 leagues that have a pre-kickoff liquidity of £100,000 to £600,000, and it also has the high and lows for games in those leagues, just so you can see the range of liquidity we have, because I'm sure some people say, I've seen much higher than that level, or I've seen much lower than that level. Well, yes, that does happen, and this is just the average. So these are very famous leagues, we know these. And then the next set are the ones that have between £10,000 to £20,000 pre-kickoff. And I'm actually surprised by how low this is. I thought these leagues would be much higher pre-kickoff. They do get a lot more money in play, but it's interesting to see them at this level, and surprising to see in there, the Chinese Super League, Armenian Premier League. Of course, this data is taken from a snapshot period of time. Maybe at that time, these leagues were more active. Maybe they had some games that were the only ones on at that time, because, my expectation for those leagues is quite a low amount. But if it's the only game on at that time, I'm sure we've seen them. Some of these games, they kick off earlier or later than other games. So they're the only game on for some people, and people will bet on anything. So maybe that's a reason for these having a bit more liquidity. But again, it will depend on what matches are on at that time. And then they've got a third set which have a liquidity from £5,000 to £10,000. And here we start to see some smaller leagues, but still leagues we would probably bet on normally and not really worry about it too much. And this data kind of supports that these leagues are viable. They have a certain amount on. But you might be thinking with these, can this scale? If you're sharing a betting system, or if you want thinking about increasing stakes to large amounts of money, are these leagues going to be able to support it on Betfair exchange, at least anyway? And then beyond that, the remaining 70 leagues have traded volumes between £250,000 and £5,000. If you come and take a look at the article on the website, then you'll be able to look and check certain leagues yourself, and also be able to filter by different factors such as 60 minutes before kickoff, or also the full-time averages as well. So what can we do with this data? One thing I've done, I've taken the leagues and divided them into super leagues, major leagues, and minor leagues, and then applied them to some of the bots I'm running and some of the strategies I'm using. For example, here is a bot made by a person who I help make bots with. It's called GK Goals Knowledge, and you can actually follow this betting system on my website, bettingsystemsguide.com, GK Goal Knowledge. So the original bot, this GK06.01 bot, has had 3,300 bets since July 2025, and in that time it's made £43 on £1 level stakes, which gives it a 1.3% ROI. And in a world where it's very hard to get anything that makes higher than that on a reliable basis over thousands of bets, I'm okay with that. I'm quite happy with that. This is a low odds system, so actually I can triple my stakes on this with a standard 100-point bank, so it can give about 3.9 units of profit over each 100 bets, which is not bad. So what I did is split up the bots into super leagues, major leagues, and minor leagues, and it was very interesting the results I got. So just running it since December 14th, 2025. Today is February 4th, so that's about 7 weeks. During that time, there's been about 200, 250 bets for each of those sets. And very interestingly, the super leagues, where some people say it's much harder to find value, have actually produced the most value with 9% yield. And the major leagues, kind of ones in the middle there, they've made 3% yield, still better than the standard. And the minor leagues have really let us down with minus 3.5%. So it's quite interesting there that the The super leagues, the major leagues, the leagues with higher liquidity, like over £5,000 liquidity before kickoff, those ones are producing a large amount of profit there. So that's one way I'm using this data, is to go back to existing bots I have that are working and seeing if splitting them up into different leagues can find different slices of value. With this method, I'm getting data as I go. So these are live tested betting systems. I don't have data to back test with. There's a betting idea, so there's a manual betting system that works, and I'm trying to automate that. So each time I have a new idea, each time there's a new way to develop a bot, then we have to start again with a fresh bot and gather new data. And there is another way, of course, to making betting systems, and that's where you start with a huge database of historical data that goes back like 10 or more years. And then you backtest betting ideas with that. And that's what I do with Betterminic. Betterminic.com has a database with football data going back to 2012, and they have bookmaker data from that. So we have the odds from that. So we can say, what if I did this for the last 13, 14 years? What if I did this for the last 13 years? Would it have made profit or not? So it's basically back-tested strategies. So you start with an idea and you see, would it have worked or not? And that's another way to create betting strategies. And so what I did here, I did it very simply. I took the top 36 leagues by liquidity, those that have £5,000 or more traded on them at kickoff. And that I called them like the top 36 leagues. And then I took the rest. There are 111 leagues on Betterminic. And I took those other ones and I put them as like a lower set. And ended up with, from those, that I took a very simple, very simple betting idea, which is to bet on favorites at home. That's where you can see the odds are quite low. And what happens if you just bet on the strong home favorites in the top 36 leagues by liquidity? And it actually made a profit. And I was really surprised about that. It's a very thin profit, just 0.14% yield. But when we compare that to the other leagues with less liquidity, it's making a loss of minus 1.82%. And what I would actually expect to see, if I bet on every single home game, I would expect to see about minus 4% yield. And that's the sportsbook betting margin. That's their profit margin. So anytime you have a yield that is better than minus 4%, you're slightly beating the margin, you're slightly beating the bookmaker. So here, even betting on home favorites is slightly beating that bookmaker margin. But it's interesting that the higher liquidity leagues, just by that separation, we get quite a different level of yield and profit. And you look at the maximum drawdown as well there. The major leagues, maximum drawdown of minus 37 units. The minor leagues, minus 152 points drawdown. So that's almost suggesting, yeah, that when there's higher liquidity, there's more consistency. When there's less liquidity, there's less consistency. So whenever the odds say this is a favorite, this is a strong home favorite, maybe it's wrong. Maybe there's not enough data, not enough eyes, not enough interest in this data to produce a Betfair exchange kickoff price that's actually real. So it's quite interesting, I think, where to divide up the data in that way. There's, of course, many different ways to backtest and analyze data, and I think this is one more additional way we can divide up the data and try to find different slices of value. So if you've become interested in seeing this data and taking a look for yourself, which leagues are getting what kind of average liquidity pre-match, at kickoff, and at full time, you can just go to Google, type in Betterminic League Liquidity, or just go to the Betterminic website and go to their blog, and you should be able to find which football leagues have the most liquidity on Betfair. That will be their article there. And then you will be able to see the same data, you'll be able to read the same analysis. You can even download this data as an Excel file. And if you get interested in doing backtesting with this data, then you can use their Bettermin Builder database, which is something I use to build a lot of my value betting strategies with. And you can see those on bettingsystemsguide.com. I've got value betting strategies and lay betting strategies created with the Betterminic database tool. And if you're interested in making bots for the BF Bot Manager, but you're not quite sure how to do it, then I can help you out with my support service. I can make bots for you. I can teach you how BF Bot Manager works. It's just £60 for one session, so you can email me at bettingsystemsguide@gmail.com if you're interested in that. And also I can make bots for you as well with my bot making service. All of this is available on my website, bettingsystemsguide.com. Well, thank you for watching, and go take a look at the league liquidity ranking on the betterminute.com website. It's one of their blog articles, which football leagues have the most liquidity on Betfair. Thank you for watching. Interested in big data betting? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this. And check out BetterMinute's big data betting research database that has historical odds and football statistics. If you're looking for betting system recommendations, then come to my website, bettingsystemsguide.com, where you can get both manual and automated betting bot systems. You can read more about betting systems in my books, find verified winning tipsters at tippingsports.com, and automate your betting with the BF Bot Manager software. Visit my website for more information. Thanks for watching.